توني بلير وحكومته تتخذان أسلوبا رئاسيا، وأن على هذه السلطات التي لدى الحكومة أن تؤخذ منها، أو بعض هذه السلطات أن تؤخذ منها. هل يمكن للبرلمان أن يأخذ منها هذه السلطات؟ ثم ما هي مواصفات هذه السلوكات الرئاسية كما وصفتها؟
هناك نموذجان في الأنظمة البرلمانية. الأول الانتخاب المباشر، أي أن الناس يختارون وليس للرئيس هنا أغلبية كاملة، بل عليه إقناع البرلمان بمقترحاته، وإقناع البرلمان إن ما يقوله هو الصواب، أو عليه تعديل هذه المقترحات. وهذا هو ما يحدث في النظام الأمريكي. في النظام البريطاني يقود رئيس الوزراء حزب الأغلبية في البرلمان، وبالتالي له أغلبية مباشرة تسانده، ويعمل بمثابة رئيس لزملاء يقدمون للبرلمان تقريرا بما يفعلون. ولكن الواقع أن الأمور الآن تتركز أكثر وأكثر في أيدي رئيس الوزراء، وعلى الوزراء أن يفعلوا ما يقوله مكتب رئيس الوزراء، أي أن هناك تركيز للقوة في يد رئيس الوزراء وأغلبية في البرلمان تقود إلى عملية اتخاذ القرار.
شكرا جزيلا.
ليش غسان كنفاني؟ ليش أنيس الصايغ؟ ليش الهمشري؟ ليش وائل الحيثم؟ ليش باسل الكويتي؟ ليش بسام أبو شريف؟
يقتل الكادر الفلسطيني الذي له نشاط دعائي، نشاط مفيد للقضية الفلسطينية.
The man who continues to serve as commander of El Fatah, Black September, the gangster.
كان عدو إسرائيل الأول هو الفلسطيني الذي كان بإمكانه أن يتصل بالأمريكي.
برنامج قائمة جولدا يعاد بثه الجمعة في 3:05 مساء بتوقيت مكة المكرمة، 12:05 بتوقيت جرينتش.
An idea of the Arab view of Bush's personal involvement in this?
Well, people are looking at this with a lot of hope, but also you understand skepticism as well. Because of the late war in Iraq now, people are not looking at George Bush with great favors. You know, they don't believe he is a great friend of the Arabs or their causes. However, people are very, very tired of wars. People are hopeful that maybe this involvement will be actually bringing peace finally to the area, which everyone needs, as you know.
Okay, there's been all sorts of language leading up to this, not least of that being the fact that Ariel Sharon referred to an occupation. Now, how was that viewed?
Well, people were finally saying he is saying the truth. He is viewing, you know, the problem as it should be, because it is an occupation. Nevertheless, people are thinking maybe, you know, Ariel Sharon is having these tactical moves, but not strategic, meaning they're not believing that all of a sudden somebody like Ariel Sharon is going to be a dove of peace, as George Bush has called him. Nevertheless, again, I say people are hopeful. You see, this is seen as the last chance for peace. People want to grab this chance, but people don't want a peace which is looked upon as unjust. People want a lasting peace. They don't want a period of calm. This is not what people are looking for. They want something, they want a commitment from the Americans. And you know, the fact that the American elections are coming in few months make people a little bit weary that maybe George Bush's involvement will not last more than few months. However, as I say, the mood in general is peaceful, in a way, you know, I mean, hopeful of peace, and looking forward indeed for a greater American involvement. As you have seen, the Arab leaders yesterday gave a great commitment on their part. I believe that you know, the communique that came out from the Arab leaders was indeed very generous, although I must add many of the people don't agree with everything that they have said, but still I believe if George Bush is seen, and indeed Sharon is seen to be serious and sincere in their efforts, then there is a great hope.
Effectively, the fact that George Bush got the Arab leaders together and behind this plan was absolutely crucial, wasn't it?
Sorry, come again?
The fact that he got the Arab leaders together and behind this plan was key.
Yes, you see, people think that George Bush is late in coming to the area. He's been president for all these years. He has never even shown this commitment. So yes, this commitment is welcome. Having this meeting is also welcome. It's seen as a sign of hope. It's seen finally of recognizing that this is actually the main problem that the Arabs face. The Arabs did not think that the Iraqi problem is the main problem as such, while George Bush addressed that problem. The main problem is solving the Palestinian problem, the Lebanese and the Syrian, in a just way. They want lasting peace. They don't want just a piece of calm.
All right. Is Mahmoud Abbas the man to do this? One of the other efforts on behalf of George Bush yesterday at the summit was to sort of promote him, really, wasn't it?
You see, I think in the Arab world there is a great realization that it's not a matter of people, of persons. It is not Arafat against Abu Mazen. Arafat, don't forget, he's the guy who actually recognized Israel after his long history of being a freedom fighter. However, yes, there is hope. People are giving all the support. I think the Arab government gave all the support that Abu Mazen needs. He is being given the support by his people at large, but he has to be seen to be delivering to his people. Otherwise, this support will not last.
Baria, thank you very much indeed for coming in. Baria Alamuddin joining us there with the Arab perspective on this summit. And we are going to take a short break now, but we are waiting for George Bush to actually get off his plane. We saw it a moment ago, literally just arriving in Aqaba. These are live pictures that...
We got Resolution 1441, and therefore you have to deploy some troops to threaten war. And then we're told the troops can't sit in the desert because they've been deployed. We have to go for conflict. And the Blitz process was truncated. Why, unless we were all working to a target date that didn't permit enough time for the Blitz process to be completed?
But I'm not totally following you. Let's say, for example, after 1441, which gave, quotes, a final opportunity, without which there would be serious consequences, if Saddam Hussein had recognized that this was indeed a final opportunity, that troops were massing at his frontier, if he had then published a dossier on December 8, which was fuller and had cooperated with Blix, do you think the coalition would still have gone to war?
When 1441 was passed, because of course that was a resolution that was put together in the normal way that takes place in New York, with a long process of negotiation and amendment, so you get buy-in and you build consensus, and indeed got unanimity, we and others assured the Security Council that, because there was some dispute, some words the French wanted to make sure that the matter would have to come back to the Security Council if there was to be an authorization of military action, and verbal assurances were given that the matter would have to come back to the Security Council. And then Blix achieved considerable disarmament, made it clear himself that he needed more time, because after all, it wasn't till November it was passed. Then you've got to get the weapons inspectors into Iraq and get them there with all their equipment. And there was the question of sharing intelligence. And I was seeing our intelligence agencies at that time, and they were saying the scientists' records and laboratory equipment and so on was hidden and being hidden across the country, and that they knew where it was. And I was arguing with them that why don't we give the information to Blix then and facilitate Blix in going to the houses where things are hidden. So there wasn't very much time between 1441 being passed, Blix getting in, getting started, getting going. If you remember, he complained that he wasn't getting much help with intelligence information, and then the UK was more helpful. And then he was making progress in achieving the destruction of ballistic missiles and made it clear he needed more time. And then suddenly, the resolution saying 1441, or the draft saying 1441 has not been fulfilled, was tabled, and the whole process was brought to an end. We were misled about the French position, and everything was blamed on the French. But I happened to talk to Kofi Annan on the telephone around that time about the situation in the Congo, and he said it's absolutely clear the majority of the Security Council think Blix needs more time. Now, this is a very serious matter, and I understand how serious a matter it is, but I'm afraid, I'm very sorry, this is my conclusion.
We hear that now, Mr. Hamilton, please.
Claire, to what extent were you aware of the threat posed by Iraq prior to the events of September the 9th, September the 11th, 2001?
I've been very troubled by sanctions and the suffering of the people of Iraq for a very long time, and certainly since I took office in the government from 1997, and we've attempted to improve the humanitarian programs and the effectiveness of UN actions and get some relief in the way in which sanctions worked. So I have been absolutely clear that the situation was unsatisfactory. I don't believe it could have been just left. I didn't believe in containment, both because Saddam Hussein was defying the UN, but also because the people of Iraq were suffering so badly.
Do you believe there was a threat to British interests posed by Iraq prior to the 11th of September?
No, I didn't believe that. I believed that the people of Iraq were suffering badly, and that Saddam Hussein was in defiance of the UN over the question of working to try to achieve chemical and biological weapons. I believed, and I still believe, that he did try for nuclear, but the previous inspection regime dismantled that. So I still don't think he was an imminent threat. I think that's where one of the exaggerations came. But I think he was, and I believe still he was, committed to having laboratories and scientists and doing work and trying to develop chemical and biological weapons. And we know he had ballistic missiles of a range beyond that permitted in the Security Council resolution. So my view was the problem needed attending to, but there wasn't an imminent threat. Therefore, we should do it right. The new urgency that came into the US was because of September the 11th. This false suggestion that there was any link to Al-Qaeda, it's another of the falsities in to try to get an urgency for action. So I think the right way would have been to say we're going to attend to this, and we're going to attend to the Middle East. The roadmap had already been negotiated, so we should have started off with publishing that and starting implementation and showing a commitment to move to justice in the Middle East. Then we should have turned to Iraq, trying to keep the support of Arab governments, and we should have tried for disarmament. I mean, you could have even had the UN authorising military action to support the inspectors, it seems to me. We should have tried indicting Saddam Hussein. We should have lifted sanctions. If you take the Kosovo parallel, and I was one who believed that we should have acted on Milosevic earlier with all the ethnic cleansing from Bosnia and so on, that it was absolutely right to act, and the Kosovars being pushed out of their country was reversed, and then the military action stopped. But he was indicted and other action was taken, and we got him to The Hague without a full-scale invasion of Serbia. So I hope that's not too long an answer, but the point is I was very aware of it. My deepest concern was the suffering of the people of Iraq and the anger that was causing in the Middle East. I think it should have been attended to, but we had time to attend to it right. And let me make it clear, from the beginning of this crisis, and indeed before, I've always thought we had to be willing to use military force to back up the authority of the UN. So I wasn't saying no military force at all at any price, but I was saying you should avoid it if at all possible. That's the teaching on the just war. You have to make sure that there's no other way. And we should have tried that. And I thought for a long time in this crisis that the UK was playing the role of trying to restrain the US and try and examine all of the means. And I now think that we weren't and that we pre-committed.
That then leads me to a second question. Throughout 2002, there was a renewed focus on Iraq. It was discussed in the media. How often was it discussed in the cabinet? And how far do you think that the renewed focus on Iraq was being pressed by Washington?
Well, I'm certain it was being pressed by Washington. And if I don't know, I presume you'll get the clerks to go back over the sort of media story, because it kept breaking into our media, and you kept getting an echo of the arguments in Washington from our Prime Minister and our Foreign Secretary. I know that I asked, occasionally pre-cabinet, you're asked if you want to raise anything. Not every week, some weeks, interestingly. And